The stars looked different from the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship Eternal Glory. Admiral Kethvar stood before the main viewing screen, his crystalline form reflecting the cold light of distant suns. His fleet of 12 heavy cruisers moved through space like silver daggers cutting through black silk. They had traveled far from their home worlds, following ancient star maps that showed this region as empty space. The Zephyrians had ruled their part of the galaxy for thousands of years. They brought order wherever they went. Their ships were powerful, their weapons deadly, and their will absolute. Today they would claim new territory for the galactic hegemony. It should be simple work. "Admiral, we are detecting something unusual," reported Sub-Commander Veltar from his station. His voice carried concern. "Long-range sensors show artificial structures ahead. Many of them." Kethavar turned his attention to the data streams flowing across the command screens. What he saw made him pause. Where there should have been empty space, the sensors revealed a vast network of space stations. Ship traffic moved along invisible highways between distant worlds. This was not the vacant territory their scouts had reported. "How many worlds?" Kethvar asked. "At least 50 in this sector alone, Admiral. The civilization appears to extend much further than our initial scans indicated." The Admiral studied the tactical display. Whatever species lived here had built an impressive infrastructure. Their technology seemed primitive compared to Zephyrian standards, but the sheer scale was concerning. This would not be the simple, territorial claim he had expected. Several light years away, Commander Jake Morrison sat in the pilot seat of the human patrol vessel Liberty Bell. His small ship was running a routine security sweep along the outer edge of human space. Beside him, pilot Lisa Carter monitored the navigation systems, while engineer Bobby Chen worked on repairs to the sensor array. "Jake, you need to see this," Lisa said, her voice tight with worry. "Multiple contacts approaching our position. Big ones." Jake leaned forward to study the display. 12 massive ships were moving toward human space in perfect formation. Their design was unlike anything in the human databases. The vessels seemed to be made of some kind of crystal or metal that caught and reflected starlight in strange ways. "Any response to our hail?" Jake asked. "Nothing. They are not using any communication frequency we know." Bobby looked up from his repair work. "Those ships are huge. Each one is at least 10 times the size of our heavy cruisers." Jake made a decision that would change everything. "Lisa, set course to intercept. We need to find out who they are and what they want." The Liberty Bell changed direction and accelerated toward the alien fleet. As they drew closer, Jake could see the incredible detail of the alien ships. They were beautiful in a cold, deadly way. Weapons ports lined their hulls like dark eyes watching the stars. "Unknown vessels, this is Commander Jake Morrison of the Human Colonial Defense Force," Jake broadcast on all frequencies. "You are approaching human territory. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." Aboard the Eternal Glory, Kethvar received the transmission through his translation systems. The language was unknown, but the meaning was clear. These humans were claiming ownership of this space. "Admiral, shall we respond?" asked Sub-Commander Veltar. "Yes. Tell them we are the advance force of the galactic hegemony. This territory now belongs to us. All settlements must be evacuated immediately." The response came back to the Liberty Bell within minutes. Jake listened to the cold, mechanical voice of the translation system. The aliens were demanding that all humans leave their homes and colonies. They claimed this entire region of space as their own. "That is not going to happen," Jake said into his communicator. "This is human space. We have been here for over 200 years. You need to turn around and go back where you came from." The response was immediate and violent. Bright energy beams lanced out from the alien flagship, passing just in front of the Liberty Bell. The warning shots lit up the small ship's hull with dangerous radiation. "They are firing on us," Lisa shouted over the alarm systems. Jake's hands moved quickly over the controls. The Liberty Bell was fast and agile compared to the massive alien ships. He threw the ship into a spinning dive that carried them away from the next volley of energy beams. "Bobby, get on the long-range transmitter. Send an emergency signal to Colonial Command. Tell them we have first contact with a hostile alien force. Send them everything we have recorded." As the Liberty Bell raced away from the alien fleet, Bobby's fingers flew over the communication controls. The message went out on quantum channels that would reach every human world within hours. Admiral Kethvar watched the small human ship escape. He could have destroyed it easily, but preferred to let it carry news of Zephyrian power back to its masters. Fear would make the humans more likely to surrender without a fight. "Sub-Commander, set course for the nearest human world. We will demonstrate the price of resistance." The Eternal Glory and its escort ships moved deeper into human space. Behind them, they left only empty space and the echo of warning shots. Ahead lay worlds full of humans who did not yet know that their quiet lives were about to become a war for survival. The first meeting between humans and Zephyrians was over. Both sides now knew that peace was impossible. The only question was, how many would die before one species claimed victory over the other? The emergency alert reached Governor Patricia Hayes while she was reviewing mining reports in her office on New Denver. The message from the Liberty Bell painted a terrifying picture of massive alien warships demanding human surrender. Patricia had been governor of this mining world for 8 years. She knew her 2 million citizens depended on her to keep them safe. "Get me Admiral Rodriguez at Earth Defense Command," she told her aide, "and activate the planetary defense grid immediately." New Denver was not helpless. Like all human colonies on the frontier, it had been built with defense in mind. Orbital platforms surrounded the planet like a steel necklace. Each platform carried enough firepower to destroy a city. Underground on the planet's surface, missile batteries waited in hidden silos. Captain Ryan Walsh commanded the orbital defense network from Command Station Alpha. He watched his screens as the defense grid came online. Hundreds of automated systems began talking to each other, sharing targeting data and preparing for battle. "Governor Hayes, we have 12 large contacts approaching the outer system," Ryan reported over the communication link. "They are bigger than anything in our files. Can we stop them? We are about to find out." The Zephyrian fleet entered the New Denver system like wolves entering a sheep pen. Admiral Kethvar expected the humans to surrender immediately when they saw the overwhelming power of his ships. Instead, his sensors detected active targeting systems locking onto his vessels. "Admiral, the humans are powering weapons," reported Sub-Commander Veltar. "Multiple orbital platforms and surface installations." Kethvar felt a moment of surprise. These primitive humans meant to fight. It would be a short battle, but their courage was worth noting. "All ships, open fire. Destroy their orbital defenses first." The Zephyrian ships unleashed their plasma cannons. Streams of superheated energy reached across space toward the human platforms. The attack should have destroyed the orbital defenses in seconds. Instead, the human platforms survived. Energy shields flickered to life around each station. The plasma beams splashed harmlessly against barriers of pure force. Return fire came immediately. The humans did not use energy weapons. Instead, they fired solid metal projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds. The kinetic rounds punched through Zephyrian shields like they were made of paper. Armor plating designed to stop plasma beams cracked and shattered under the impact of simple metal moving very fast. "Impossible," Kethvar whispered as damage. Reports flooded his command center. "How are they penetrating our defenses?" On the planet's surface, Colonel Amy Richardson coordinated the ground-based missile batteries. Her weapons were designed for a different kind of war. Instead of destroying enemy ships, they were meant to overwhelm enemy defenses with sheer numbers. "Launch everything," she ordered. Thousands of missiles erupted from hidden silos across New Denver. They did not fly straight toward the enemy ships. Instead, They followed complex paths that brought them at the alien fleet from every direction at once. Some missiles carried explosive warheads, others released clouds of metal fragments designed to damage sensors and weapons. A few carried electromagnetic pulse generators that could shut down enemy electronics. The Zephyrian point defense systems tried to intercept the incoming missiles. Energy beams reached out to destroy the human weapons, but there were too many targets. Hundreds of missiles slipped through the defensive fire and struck the alien ships. Admiral Kethvar felt his flagship shake under the impact of multiple hits. His beautiful crystalline ship was being scarred by crude human weapons. This was not how the battle was supposed to go. All ships, fall back to safe distance. Reform the battle line. The Zephyrian fleet withdrew beyond the range of human orbital weapons. Kethvar needed time to understand what had happened. His ships were more advanced than human technology, but the humans fought in ways he had never seen before. Captain Ryan Walsh watched the alien ships retreat. His orbital platforms had taken damage, but they were still functional. More importantly, the human defense network was learning. Every time the aliens fired their weapons, human sensors recorded the energy patterns. The defense computers were already adapting their shields to better resist plasma fire. "Governor Hayes, we stopped their first attack," Ryan reported. "But they will be back." Patricia Hayes studied the tactical display from her emergency command bunker. The alien ships were powerful, but they seemed confused by human tactics. That would not last long. These aliens had conquered other worlds before. They would learn from their mistakes. "Ryan, how long can we hold out?" "Against 12 ships like those, maybe a week if we are lucky." Patricia made the hardest decision of her career. "Send a message to all civilian transports. Begin evacuation of non-essential personnel. Priority goes to children and the elderly." The evacuation began immediately. Human ships that normally carried mining equipment and processed metals now loaded desperate families fleeing for their lives. The spaceports of New Denver became scenes of controlled chaos as millions of people tried to escape before the aliens returned, but not everyone was leaving. Factory workers stayed at their posts, converting mining equipment into weapons of war. The massive machines used to break apart asteroids could be turned into projectile launchers. Refineries that processed metals could manufacture ammunition. New Denver was transforming itself from a peaceful mining world into a fortress. Admiral Kethvar spent the night studying human tactics. His analysts had dissected the battle data and reached disturbing conclusions. The humans used their industrial infrastructure as part of their military. Their defense platforms were built using the same technology that moved asteroids and processed raw materials. More troubling was the human approach to warfare itself. Where Zephyrians fought with honor and tradition, humans seemed willing to use any tactic that worked. They turned civilian equipment into weapons. They used overwhelming numbers to compensate for inferior technology. They adapted their defenses in real time during battle. "Sub-Commander, prepare for extended siege operations," Kethvar ordered. "These humans will not surrender easily." As dawn broke over New Denver, both sides prepared for a longer war. The Zephyrians had expected a quick victory and immediate surrender. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that refused to accept defeat. The humans had survived the first alien attack, but they knew worse was coming. The evacuation ships continued their desperate flights from New Denver, carrying refugees to other human worlds. Each ship that escaped carried word of the alien invasion to the rest of human space. Soon, every human world would know that they were no longer alone in the galaxy, and that their new neighbors wanted them dead. Admiral Helen Rodriguez stood in the war room at Earth Defense Command, staring at a holographic map that showed the true scope of the crisis. Red markers indicated confirmed alien ships throughout human space. The invasion was not limited to New Denver. Zephyrian scouts had been spotted near dozens of human worlds. "How many ships are we dealing with?" she asked her intelligence chief. "At least 40 that we can confirm, Admiral. Possibly more. They seem to be testing our defenses across multiple systems. Helen studied the data with growing concern. The aliens were not launching random attacks. They were conducting a systematic survey of human military capabilities. This was the opening move of a much larger campaign. What do we know about their technology? Superior to ours in most areas. Their ships are bigger, their weapons more powerful, their defenses stronger, but they seem confused by our tactics. The door to the war room opened and Captain Tony Garcia entered. He commanded the intelligence vessel Defiance, one of the fastest ships in the human fleet. His mission had taken him deep into alien-controlled space to gather information about the enemy. "Admiral, we have a problem," Tony said without preamble. "The 12 ships at New Denver are just the advance guard. Our long-range sensors have detected a much larger fleet moving this way." Helen felt a chill run down her spine. "How much larger?" "Over 300 ships, Admiral. And they are all bigger than anything we have ever built." The war room fell, silent as everyone absorbed this information. Humanity had perhaps 50 major warships scattered across dozens of star systems. The aliens were bringing a fleet 6 times that size to destroy them. "There is more," Tony continued. "We managed to intercept some of their communications. The aliens call themselves the Galactic Hegemony. They have been conquering worlds for thousands of years. According to their own records, they have destroyed 47 different species that refused to surrender." What happened to the species that did surrender? Slavery. The survivors become workers in alien mines and factories. Children are taken away and raised to serve the hegemony. It is a slow extinction either way. Admiral Rodriguez realized that humanity was facing a war for survival. There would be no negotiated peace, no compromise. The aliens intended to destroy human civilization completely. "Tony, I need you to take a small task force and capture one of their ships. We need to understand their technology better." "Already. Working on it, Admiral." Tech specialist Kevin Park has been studying the sensor readings from New Denver. He thinks he knows how their shields work. 3 days later, Tony Garcia led a strike team aboard the captured Zephyrian destroyer Wind of Stars. His Marines, including Sergeant Maria Lopez, had successfully boarded the alien vessel during a surprise attack. The ship was now in human hands, along with its crew and computer systems. Kevin Park worked frantically to download data from the alien computers. What he found was both terrifying and valuable. The galactic hegemony was vast, spanning thousands of star systems. The Zephyrians were just one member species among many, and they had detailed records of how to destroy entire civilizations. "Tony, you need to see this," Kevin called out from the alien command center. "They have files on every species they have ever encountered. Look at this." The alien database contained detailed tactical analyses of 47 different wars. Each file showed how the hegemony had adapted their tactics to destroy specific types of resistance. Some species had tried to hide on remote worlds. Others had fought conventional space battles. A few had attempted to negotiate. All had been exterminated. "They learn from every war," Kevin explained. "Each conquest teaches them how to fight the next enemy more effectively. That is how they have stayed undefeated for thousands of years." But Tony was looking at something else in the alien files. A section marked as Contingency Protocols contained detailed plans for what the hegemony called final solutions. If a species proved too difficult to conquer normally, the aliens would sterilize entire worlds from orbit. "Maria, get on the communicator. We need to warn Admiral Rodriguez immediately." On Earth, Helen Rodriguez received Tony's report with growing alarm. The aliens were not just conquering human space. They were preparing to exterminate every human in the galaxy. The captured files showed that hegemony doctrine called for complete species destruction if resistance continued beyond acceptable parameters. "How long before their main fleet arrives?" she asked. 6 weeks, Admiral. Maybe less. Helen made a decision that would define humanity's future. She activated Protocol 7, a war plan that had been developed in secret over decades. Every human world would prepare for total war. Every ship, every weapon, every person would be mobilized for the coming battle. But first, humanity needed allies. The captured alien files contained data on other species the hegemony was preparing to attack. Maybe some of them could be convinced to fight back. Tony, I need you to take that captured ship and make contact with these other species. If we are going to survive, we cannot fight alone. As Tony prepared for his diplomatic mission, other human commanders were learning disturbing truths about their enemy. The Zephyrians were not cruel by nature. They simply viewed the destruction of other species as necessary for galactic order. In their minds, they were bringing peace to the universe by eliminating chaos. Captain Steve Miller, commanding the heavy cruiser Yorktown, intercepted another alien communication that revealed the scope of hegemony plans. They intended to turn human space into a resource extraction zone. Human worlds would be stripped of metals and minerals to fuel further expansion. The few humans allowed to survive would work in alien mines until they died. They are not trying to rule us, Steve reported to Admiral Rodriguez. They want to erase us and take everything we have built. The revelation changed everything about how humans viewed the war. This was not a conflict over territory or resources. It was a struggle between extinction and survival. Every human ship, every human world, every human life was now part of the war effort. Admiral Rodriguez issued new orders to every human commander in the galaxy. There would be no surrender, no retreat, no mercy shown to an enemy that intended genocide. Humanity would fight with every weapon they could build and every tactic they could devise. The aliens had made one crucial mistake in their planning. They assumed that humans would fight like every other species they had conquered. Honorable. Battles between military forces while civilians waited safely behind the lines. They were about to learn that humans did not separate soldiers from civilians. When humanity went to war, the entire species became an army. The hegemony main fleet arrived at the edge of human space like a storm front, moving across a peaceful ocean. Over 300 ships materialized from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Admiral Kethvar, now commanding the entire invasion force, felt confident that this overwhelming display of power would finally break human resistance. "All ship commanders, prepare for final assault," he broadcast to his fleet. "Target Earth first. When their homeworld falls, the other colonies will surrender." But human space was no longer the same place the Zephyrians had first encountered 6 weeks ago. Admiral Helen Rodriguez had used every day to prepare for this moment. Earth's orbital defenses had been reinforced with weapons and technology reverse-engineered from the captured alien ship. More importantly, every human world now knew exactly what they were fighting for. Captain Nancy Clark commanded the home fleet from the bridge of the battleship Constitution. Around her, 50 human warships waited in defensive formation around Earth. They were outnumbered 6-1, but Nancy had advantages that the aliens did not expect. "All ships, implement Protocol 7, she ordered. "Show them what humans do when you threaten our families." The human ships did not wait for the aliens to attack. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the massive enemy fleet. This suicidal charge confused the Zephyrian commanders. No sane military force would attack such overwhelming odds, but the humans were not charging blindly. Each ship carried experimental weapons developed from captured alien technology. Kevin Park and hundreds of other human scientists had worked around the clock to understand Zephyrian physics and turn it against them. Captain Greg Thompson commanded the dreadnought Constitution at the front of the human formation. His ship had been retrofitted with a hybrid weapons system that combined human kinetic projectiles with alien energy manipulation. When he fired, streams of metal accelerated to near light speed by controlled plasma fields reached out to touch the enemy fleet. The Zephyrian shields, designed to stop energy weapons, offered little protection against solid matter moving at such incredible velocity. The lead alien ships began taking damage immediately. Hole punched through their crystalline hulls as human rounds found their targets. Impossible, Admiral Kethvar muttered as he watched his finest ships being damaged by inferior human technology. How did they adapt our weapons so quickly? The answer came in the form of a small human ship that appeared directly behind his flagship. Commander Frank Davis had led a strike team through space using captured Zephyrian stealth technology. His Marines were already cutting through the hull of the Eternal Glory before the alien sensors detected them. "Admiral, we are being boarded," Subcommander Veltar reported with panic in his voice. The human Marines who poured into the alien ship were unlike anything the Zephyrians had faced. They wore powered armor adapted from captured alien technology. Their weapons fired explosive rounds designed to shatter crystalline alien biology. Most importantly, they fought with a savage determination that the honor-bound Zephyrians could not match. Frank Davis led his team directly toward the alien command center. His goal was not to capture the ship, but to capture Admiral Kethvar alive. Human intelligence needed information about hegemony capabilities and plans. The Zephyrian crew tried to resist, but they were not trained for close-quarters combat. Their civilization had fought wars in space for so long that they had forgotten how to fight hand-to-hand. The humans moved through the ship like a pack of wolves, destroying everything in their path. "Surrender now and you live," Frank shouted at Kethvar as his Marines surrounded the alien command center. "Resist, and we will space you." Admiral Kethvar looked around at his dead crew and realized that he had no choice. These humans were not bound by the civilized rules of warfare that governed hegemony conflicts. They would kill him without hesitation if he refused to cooperate. "I surrender," he said in broken human language. But the real turning point of the battle was happening throughout the solar system. The Zephyrians had expected to fight only human military forces. Instead, they found themselves under attack from every direction. Transport pilot Laura Kim was flying a converted cargo hauler armed with mining charges when she encountered a Zephyrian patrol near Jupiter. Her ship was not designed for combat, but she attacked anyway. The mining explosives she carried were meant to break apart asteroids. Against alien ship hulls, they were devastating. Factory worker Pete Nelson operated an automated defense platform on Mars. His job had been building mining equipment until the war started. Now he used the same industrial robots to manufacture ammunition and target alien ships. When Zephyrian fighters attacked his facility, he turned the construction mechs into combat robots. All across human space, the same transformation was taking place. Civilian infrastructure became military assets. Cargo ships became weapons platforms. Factory workers became soldiers. The Zephyrians were not fighting an army. They were fighting an entire civilization that had decided to survive, Admiral. Kethvar, now a prisoner aboard the human ship, watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed. The humans used tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. They attacked with civilian vessels. They turned industrial equipment into weapons. They fought as if every human life was a military asset. "You cannot win," he told Frank Davis during interrogation. "The hegemony has thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. We have conquered hundreds of worlds." Frank looked at the alien admiral with cold eyes. "You made one mistake. You attacked our families. Now you get to see what humans do to anyone who threatens our children." The Battle of Earth lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the human home fleet had lost 30 ships and most of their orbital platforms. But the Zephyrian invasion force was completely destroyed. Only a handful of alien ships escaped to carry word back to the hegemony. Captain Nancy Clark stood on the bridge of the damaged Constitution and looked out at the debris field that had once been an alien fleet. Earth was safe, but she knew this was only the beginning. The hegemony would send more ships, bigger fleets, more powerful weapons. "Admiral Rodriguez, we need to take this war to them," she said over the communication link. "We cannot wait for the next invasion." Helen Rodriguez agreed. The captured alien admiral had provided detailed information about hegemony bases and fleet positions. Now humanity knew where their enemies lived. It was time to return the favor. As repair crews worked to restore the Earth's defenses, human shipyards began building a new kind of warship. These vessels combined the best of human and alien technology. They were designed not for defense but for attack. Humanity was about to become the aggressor in this war. The Zephyrians had come to human space expecting to find a primitive species ripe for conquest. Instead, they had awakened something that would hunt them across the galaxy until every threat to humanity was eliminated. The prey had become the predator. The remaining Zephyrian ships fled deeper into human space, hoping to reach the edge of the territory they had so confidently invaded weeks before. Admiral Kethvar was no longer with them. He sat in a human prison cell, watching through a small window as his proud fleet was hunted to extinction. Captain Alex Stone commanded the pursuit force aboard the hunter-killer ship Vengeance. His orders were simple and brutal. No alien ship was to escape human space alive. The hegemony could not be allowed to learn how humans fought or how quickly they adapted alien technology to their own purposes. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, reported Lieutenant Sarah Brooks from the sensor station. Single Zephyrian cruiser heavily damaged. Alex studied the tactical display. The alien ship was limping toward the system edge, trailing atmosphere and debris. Its weapons were offline and its engines were failing. In any civilized war, such a vessel would be allowed to surrender or withdraw. But this was not a civilized war. The Zephyrians had come to commit genocide. They had planned to exterminate every human in the galaxy. There would be no mercy shown to genocidal monsters. All weapons, target that ship, fire when ready. The Vengeance opened fire with hybrid human-alien weapons. Kinetic rounds accelerated by plasma fields punched through the damaged Zephyrian hull. The alien ship broke apart in a brief flash of light and expanding gas. There were no survivors. Contact destroyed, Sarah reported with satisfaction. That makes 17 confirmed kills for our squadron. Throughout human space, similar hunts were taking place. Commander Janet Foster led a fast attack squadron that specialized in intercepting fleeing alien ships. Her pilots had studied Zephyrian technology and tactics until they could predict enemy behavior better than the aliens themselves. Zephyrian destroyer attempting to reach jump point, her wingman reported over the radio. Shall we take prisoners? Janet's response was immediate and final. Negative. No prisoners. No survivors. No witnesses. The alien ship tried to escape into faster-than-light travel, but human fighters equipped with captured Zephyrian engines caught it before it could jump. Plasma torpedoes designed using alien physics tore the destroyer apart. Another potential witness to human capabilities was silenced forever. Admiral Helen Rodriguez coordinated the systematic destruction of the Zephyrian fleet from her command center on Earth. Each alien ship that died took with it knowledge of human tactics and technology. The hegemony's next invasion would face enemies they could not predict or understand. Admiral, we have eliminated all but 3 enemy vessels, reported Captain Stone. The survivors are being pursued by the Ranger Squadron. Make sure none of them escape, Alex. The hegemony cannot learn what happened here. But even as the last Zephyrian ships were being destroyed, human scientists were learning everything they could from captured alien technology. Research teams led by Kevin Park had completely reverse-engineered Zephyrian faster-than-light drives, shield generators, and weapon systems. More importantly, they had improved on the alien designs. Dr. Rachel Williams worked in a secret laboratory beneath the moon's surface, developing weapons that would terrify the aliens as much as their invasion had terrified humanity. Her latest creation combined human industrial capacity with alien energy manipulation to create something the galaxy had never seen before. Admiral Rodriguez, the new drive systems are ready for testing, Rachel reported over a secure channel. We can reach hegemony space in half the time it took them to get here. Helen smiled grimly as she studied the intelligence reports taken from captured alien computers. The hegemony had detailed maps of their own territory, complete with fleet, positions, and base locations. Soon, Human ships would visit each of those positions personally. How many ships can we equip with the new technology? 20 attack cruisers within the month, 50 more within 3 months. Admiral, these ships will be more advanced than anything the hegemony has ever built. The final Zephyrian ship met its end near the edge of human space. Commander Janet Foster personally fired the shot that destroyed the last witness to humanity's true capabilities. The alien vessel died in silence, its crew never knowing that they had awakened something that would hunt their species across the galaxy. All enemy contacts eliminated, Janet reported to Fleet Command. Human space is secure. But security was no longer enough for humanity. The captured alien admiral had revealed the true scope of the hegemony's crimes. 47 species had been exterminated. Billions of sentient beings had been murdered simply for refusing to surrender their freedom. Admiral Carlos Rivera received command of humanity's first offensive fleet. His ships were built using hybrid technology that combined human innovation with alien science. They were faster than anything the hegemony possessed. Their weapons could penetrate alien defenses that had protected the conquerors for thousands of years. Admiral, we have confirmed locations for 12 hegemony outposts, reported his intelligence officer. Each one is responsible for monitoring recently conquered territories. Carlos studied the star charts with cold calculation. Each outpost represented hundreds of dead worlds and billions of murdered innocents. The hegemony had ruled through fear and overwhelming force for millennia. It was time for them to learn what it felt like to be the victims. Prepare the fleet for departure. We are going to visit our new neighbors. As the human attack fleet prepared to leave for hegemony space, scout ships equipped with alien stealth technology were already operating behind enemy lines. These vessels were invisible to hegemony sensors, but their crews were gathering detailed intelligence on alien capabilities and weaknesses. Lieutenant Tom Murphy piloted a stealth reconnaissance ship through the outer systems of hegemony space. His mission was to observe alien patrol patterns and defensive installations. What he found was a civilization that had grown soft through centuries of easy conquest. Command, the hegemony bases are not heavily defended, he reported through quantum communication. They have never faced a real threat before. Most of their fleets are scattered across conquered territories. The implications were staggering. The hegemony had become overconfident through their long string of victories. They had never faced an enemy that could match their technology or threaten their homeworlds. Their entire military doctrine was based on overwhelming primitive species with superior firepower. But humans were no longer primitive. The captured alien technology had been improved and weaponized beyond anything the hegemony could imagine. Human industrial capacity could build ships faster than the aliens could deploy them. Most importantly, humans had something the hegemony had forgotten how to feel: righteous anger. Admiral Kethvar sat in his prison cell and listened to human radio broadcasts describing the preparations for war. These creatures were not content to simply defend themselves. They intended to hunt down and destroy every hegemony outpost, every fleet, every world that had participated in genocide. You have doomed your own species, he told his human guard. The hegemony has resources you cannot imagine. They will send fleets that darken the stars. The guard, a young Marine named Billy Cooper, looked at the alien with contempt. Good. We will kill them too. Every last one of them. As the first human attack fleet departed for hegemony space, Admiral Rodriguez broadcast a message to every human world. The age of hiding behind defensive barriers was over. Humanity would take the war to their enemies and make sure that no species would ever again threaten human families. The Zephyrians had entered human space uninvited, expecting an easy conquest. They had learned too late that some invitations should never be issued. Now humanity was preparing to return the favor, and they would make sure their visit lasted long enough to settle all accounts. The hegemony outpost at Kepler Station had monitored conquered worlds for over 800 years. Commander Zethkol believed it was the safest assignment in the galaxy. His job was to watch primitive species mine resources for the Empire. Nothing interesting ever happened in this quiet corner of space. That changed when his sensors detected impossible readings. Ships were approaching the station using hegemony stealth technology, but they were not broadcasting proper identification codes. Worse, the energy signatures did not match any known hegemony vessel design. All stations, unknown contacts approaching, Zethkol broadcast to his small garrison. Power weapons and request immediate identification. The response came in a language his computers recognized as human, the same species that had been marked for extermination by Admiral Kethvar's failed invasion fleet. But that was impossible. The humans had no faster-than-light capability, and certainly no stealth technology. Hegemony Station, this is Admiral Carlos Rivera of the Human Colonial Defense Force. Surrender immediately and you will be treated as prisoners of war. Resist, and you will be destroyed. Zethkol felt his crystalline form vibrate with disbelief. Humans could not possibly have reached hegemony space. The distance was too great and their technology too primitive. This had to be some kind of elaborate deception. Human vessels, you are in violation of hegemony space. Withdraw immediately or face destruction. The human response was swift and devastating. 20 attack cruisers dropped their stealth screens and opened fire simultaneously. Their weapons were unlike anything in hegemony databases. Streams of matter accelerated to near light speed by controlled plasma fields punched through the station's shields as if they did not exist. Kepler Station, which had stood unconquered for 8 centuries, died in less than 5 minutes. Emergency. Transmissions carried news of the attack to other hegemony installations, but the messages were fragmentary and confused. How could humans have developed such advanced technology so quickly? Admiral Carlos Rivera watched the alien station break, apart under human firepower. His fleet had traveled further from home than any human ships in history, using technology stolen from their enemies and improved beyond recognition. This was only the beginning of humanity's revenge. All ships, proceed to next target, he ordered. We have 11 more installations to visit today. The systematic destruction of hegemony outposts sent shockwaves through the alien empire. Species that had been conquered centuries ago watched in amazement as their oppressors' bases were obliterated by unknown attackers. Some began to hope that their liberation might be possible. Supreme Commander Velthanor received the first reports from his headquarters on the hegemony capital world. The humans responsible for destroying Admiral Kethvar's fleet had somehow acquired faster-than-light travel and advanced stealth technology. More disturbing, they were using it to hunt hegemony. Forces throughout the galaxy. How many outposts have we lost? He demanded from his tactical staff. 17 confirmed destroyed, Supreme Commander. 3 more have gone silent and are presumed lost. The attackers appear to be targeting isolated installations first. Velthanor studied the tactical display with growing concern. The human attacks were not random raids. They showed careful planning and detailed intelligence about hegemony operations. Someone was providing the humans with classified information about outpost locations and defensive capabilities. What about our patrol fleets? Surely they can intercept these human raiders. The answer came from Admiral Yethmar, commander of the 3rd Patrol Fleet. His ships had attempted to engage human forces near the destroyed outpost at Rigel 7. The encounter had been a disaster for hegemony forces. Supreme Commander, the human ships are faster than our fastest interceptors. Their weapons penetrate our shields with ease. Most troubling, they seem to know our tactical doctrine better than we know theirs. The truth was even worse than the hegemony leadership realized. Human intelligence teams had spent months analyzing every piece of information taken from captured alien computers. They knew the location of every hegemony base, the composition of every fleet, and the defensive capabilities of every installation. Lieutenant Colonel Mike Stevens led one of these intelligence teams from a hidden base in an asteroid field deep in hegemony space. His mission was to identify high-value targets for the human attack fleets. What he had discovered went far beyond military installations. "Admiral Rivera, we have located the hegemony's central database," he reported through quantum communication. "It contains detailed records of every species they have exterminated, complete files on their methods of genocide." Carlos felt his anger burn hotter as he absorbed this information. The aliens had kept detailed records of their crimes like trophies. 47 species had been systematically murdered, and the hegemony had documented every step of the process. Where is this database located? The planet Hegemon Prime, Supreme Commander, heavily defended with orbital platforms and 3 full battle fleets. It will not be an easy target. Carlos smiled grimly. Nothing about this war had been easy, but humans excelled at finding ways to accomplish impossible tasks. The hegemony was about to learn that lesson personally, as human attack fleets continued their campaign of destruction. Other human ships were conducting a different kind of mission. Captain Susan Reed commanded a diplomatic vessel that made contact with species the hegemony had conquered but not yet exterminated. "This is Captain Reed of the Human Colonial Defense Force," she broadcast to the underground resistance on Altair 4. "We are here to offer you weapons and support. The time has come to throw off your chains." The response was immediate and enthusiastic. The Altarians had been enslaved for over 200 years, forced to mine radioactive materials for their alien masters. The prospect of freedom seemed too good to be true. "Human ship, are you really going to help us fight back?" asked Resistance leader Kethnal in broken standard. "The hegemony will kill us all if we rebel." "The hegemony is going to kill you anyway," Susan replied honestly. "Their own records show that enslaved species are eventually exterminated when they are no longer useful. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain." Within hours, human ships were delivering weapons and technical advisors to resistance movements on dozens of conquered worlds. The hegemony suddenly found itself fighting not just human fleets, but rebellions throughout their empire. Supreme Commander Velthanor watched his carefully organized empire begin to crumble. Slave worlds were rising in revolt. Patrol fleets were being destroyed by invisible human ships. Outposts that had stood for centuries were being reduced to debris in minutes. "How did this happen?" he demanded from his advisors. "How did a primitive species become capable of threatening our entire civilization?" The answer came from the captured. Records of Admiral Kethvar's failed invasion. Human scientists had reverse-engineered hegemony technology with impossible speed. More importantly, they had improved on alien designs using their own innovations. Human ships were now more advanced than anything the hegemony possessed. But the real threat was not human technology. It was human psychology. The hegemony had fought many wars, but always against species that accepted defeat when their military forces were destroyed. Humans did not seem to understand the concept of honorable surrender. They fought with a savage determination that treated every loss as motivation for greater violence. Admiral Yethmar provided the most disturbing intelligence report. Human ships were not just destroying hegemony installations, they were hunting down individual alien vessels throughout the galaxy. Every hegemony ship that encountered human forces was marked for destruction, regardless of whether it surrendered or tried to flee. "They are not taking prisoners, Supreme Commander. The humans seem determined to kill every hegemony citizen they encounter." Velthanor realized that his empire faced something unprecedented in their long history, an enemy that would not accept their surrender and would not stop fighting until every alien threat was eliminated. The hegemony had created their own destroyers by threatening to exterminate humanity. As reports of new defeats poured into his command center, the Supreme Commander made a desperate decision. All hegemony fleets would be recalled to defend the capital world. If the humans wanted a final battle, they would get one. But even as he issued these orders, Velthanor knew it might already be too late. The humans had turned his own empire against him. Conquered species were joining the human cause. Hegemony technology was being used to destroy hegemony ships. The hunters had become the hunted, and they were learning what it felt like to face extinction. The hegemony capital world of Hegemon Prime had never been threatened in over 3,000 years of galactic conquest. Its orbital defenses were designed more for ceremony than warfare. Supreme Commander Velthanor watched through his command center windows as those defenses were hastily reinforced with every available weapon platform. "Status report on the recalled fleets," he demanded from his tactical staff. 237 ships have reached Hegemon Prime, Supreme Commander. 43 more are en route but will not arrive for several days. The rest have been destroyed or are missing. The numbers were staggering. The hegemony had lost over half their total military forces to human attack fleets in less than 6 months. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being hunted to extinction by vessels built with their own stolen technology. What about the slave rebellions? The news was equally grim. Conquered species throughout the Empire had risen in revolt after receiving human weapons and support. Worlds that had been peaceful for centuries were now battlegrounds. The hegemony garrison forces were being overwhelmed by their former victims. Admiral Yethmar entered the command center with the latest intelligence reports. His once proud fleet had been reduced to 12 surviving ships after multiple encounters with human forces. "Supreme Commander, we have confirmed the approach of the main human fleet. Over 100 ships, all equipped with advanced hybrid technology. They will reach Hegemon Prime within 72 hours. Velthanor felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Not the manageable concern of a military commander facing a difficult battle, but the deep terror of a species facing extinction. The humans were coming to finish what the hegemony had started. Are our planetary shields at full power? Yes, Supreme Commander. The entire planet is protected by overlapping barrier fields. It would take months of continuous bombardment to breach them. But both commanders knew that the humans had already proven capable of bypassing hegemony defenses. Their weapons seemed designed specifically to counter alien shield technology. The protective barriers that had defended Hegemon Prime for millennia might prove useless against human firepower. Admiral Carlos Rivera stood on the bridge of his flagship Retribution as the human fleet approached the hegemony capital. Around him, 112 ships represented the most powerful military force humanity had ever assembled. Each vessel incorporated captured alien technology improved by human engineering. "Admiral, we are detecting massive defensive preparations around the target world," reported his tactical officer. "Over 200 enemy ships in defensive formation. Planetary shields at maximum strength." Carlos studied the sensor readings with professional interest. The hegemony had gathered their remaining forces for a final stand. It was exactly what he had expected. Cornered predators always fought hardest when they had nowhere left to run. "Signal the fleet. Implement the Kethvar protocol." The order was named after the captured Zephyrian admiral who had provided detailed intelligence about hegemony defensive doctrine. Human tacticians had used that information to develop attack plans specifically designed to counter alien strategies. Captain Linda Harris commanded the stealth squadron that would begin the assault. Her 12 ships were equipped with the most advanced cloaking technology humans had ever built. They were invisible to hegemony sensors and carried weapons that could crack planets. "Stealth squadron moving to attack position," she reported as her ships vanished from all sensors. "Beginning deep strike mission." The human stealth ships passed through the hegemony defensive line without being detected. Their target was not the enemy fleet or planetary shields. Instead, they headed for the massive space stations that controlled the capital world's orbital defenses. Linda's ship positioned itself directly beneath the primary control station. Her weapons were not designed for ship-to-ship combat. They were planet crackers, mining charges enhanced with captured alien energy technology. When they detonated against the station's hull, the explosion was visible from the planet's surface. Control Station Alpha destroyed, Linda reported, as debris rained down toward Hegemon Prime. Beginning attack on Station Beta. One by one, the orbital control centers died under human attack. The planetary shields flickered and failed as their command systems were systematically destroyed. The impregnable defenses of Hegemon Prime crumbled in less than an hour. Supreme Commander Velthanor watched in horror as his world's protection vanished. Without the orbital control stations, the planetary shields were useless. The surface of Hegemon Prime lay exposed to attack for the first time in 3 millennia. All ships, protect the capital at all costs, he ordered his remaining fleet. The future of our civilization depends on this battle. The hegemony ships moved to intercept the approaching human fleet. Their crystalline hulls reflected the light of the system's star as they prepared for what they knew would be their final battle. Victory was no longer possible. The best they could hope for was to inflict enough damage on the humans to discourage further attacks. Admiral Carlos Rivera watched the alien fleet approach with cold satisfaction. These ships represented the military might of a civilization that had murdered 47 species. Today, that long history of genocide would finally end. All ships, open fire. No survivors. The human fleet unleashed weapons that combined the worst aspects of both civilizations. Alien energy manipulation accelerated human kinetic projectiles to velocities that shattered space-time itself. Streams of matter moving faster than light punched through hegemony ships like they were made of paper. The battle was not a contest between equals. Human technology now surpassed anything the hegemony possessed. Human tactics were designed specifically to counter alien strategies. Most importantly, human crews fought with a fury that their enemies could not match. Captain John Baker commanded the heavy cruiser Devastator as it carved through the enemy formation. His ship's hybrid weapons tore apart 3 hegemony vessels in as many minutes. Around him, the rest of the human fleet was performing similar slaughter. Admiral Rivera, enemy fleet strength is down to 60% and falling, he reported. Their formation is breaking up. Carlos watched the tactical display as alien ships began fleeing in all directions. The disciplined hegemony fleet was dissolving into individual vessels, trying desperately to escape destruction. But there would be no escape this time. Signal the pursuit squadrons. Hunt down every ship that runs. I want them all dead. Human. Ships equipped with captured hegemony engines were faster than anything the aliens possessed. One by one, the fleeing vessels were caught and destroyed. The orbital space around Hegemon Prime became a graveyard of crystalline debris and expanding gas clouds. Admiral Yethmar died when his flagship was cut in half by human weapons. Supreme Commander Velthanor survived long enough to see his entire fleet destroyed before a human torpedo found his command ship. The military leadership of the hegemony was eliminated in a single afternoon. With the orbital defenses gone and the fleet destroyed, Hegemon Prime lay helpless before human firepower. Admiral Rivera could have bombarded the planet into radioactive dust. Instead, he opened communication channels to the surface. People of Hegemon Prime, this is Admiral Carlos Rivera. Your military forces have been destroyed. Your orbital defenses are gone. You have one choice remaining. Surrender unconditionally or share the fate of the 47 species your empire exterminated. The response came from the hegemony civilian government. They agreed to immediate surrender and offered to provide reparations for their crimes. But Carlos had not come seeking reparations or tribute. Your surrender is not acceptable. The galactic hegemony will be dissolved completely. Your technology will be confiscated. Your colonies will be liberated. Any attempt to rebuild your military will result in the complete sterilization of this world. As human marines landed on Hegemon Prime to enforce the surrender, Admiral Rivera transmitted a message to every species in the galaxy. The age of hegemony dominance was over. The murderers of 47 civilizations had finally met their match. But even as victory was declared, Carlos knew that humanity's work was not finished. Scattered hegemony forces still operated throughout the galaxy. Other aggressive species might try to fill the power vacuum left by the Empire's collapse. The war was over, but the peace would require constant vigilance. Humanity had entered galactic civilization as the hunted. They had emerged as the hunters, and they would make sure that no species would ever again face the choice between slavery and extinction. 5 years after the fall of Hegemon Prime, the galaxy was a very different place. Captain Daniel Ross stood on the observation deck of the human exploration vessel Discovery as it approached the former hegemony world of Zephyr 7. Below him, the planet showed signs of new life and growth that would have been impossible under alien rule. "Captain, we are receiving greetings from the planetary government," reported Communications Officer Amy Foster. "They are requesting permission to join the Galactic Liberation Alliance." Daniel smiled as he read the formal request. Zephyr 7 was the 43rd former hegemony world to seek membership in the alliance humanity had created. The organization was dedicated to preventing any species from ever again facing genocide or forced slavery. "Signal our acceptance. Schedule a meeting with their leadership council tomorrow." The Liberation Alliance had grown far beyond what anyone had imagined when Admiral Rivera first proposed it. Over 200 species now belonged to the organization. Some were former hegemony slaves who had been freed by human forces. Others were civilizations that had chosen to join voluntarily rather than risk future conquest. Admiral Helen Rodriguez, now Supreme Commander of Alliance Forces, reviewed the latest intelligence reports from her headquarters on liberated Altair. 4. The former slave world had become a symbol of hope for oppressed species throughout the galaxy. "Status report on the remaining hegemony holdouts," she requested from her intelligence chief. 17 isolated systems still claim hegemony authority, Admiral. All are blockaded by Alliance forces. Their combined military strength is negligible. Helen nodded with satisfaction. The scattered remnants of the once mighty empire posed no threat to galactic peace. Most were small colonies that had been cut off from the capital when human forces destroyed the hegemony's communication networks. "What about the war crimes tribunals?" Proceeding as scheduled. Over 3,000 former hegemony officials are awaiting trial for genocide and crimes against sentient beings. The trials were broadcast throughout the galaxy as a warning to any species that might consider following the hegemony's example. The detailed records of 47 exterminated civilizations provided overwhelming evidence of systematic murder on an unimaginable scale, but not all of humanity's attention was focused on the past. Dr. Rachel Williams, now Director of Advanced Research for the Alliance, was developing technologies that would have seemed impossible just years before. Her laboratories combined the scientific knowledge of dozens of species to create wonders that benefited all members. "Admiral Rodriguez, the new generation of medical scanners is ready for distribution," she reported during their weekly briefing. "We can now detect and cure diseases that plagued multiple species for millennia." The medical breakthrough was just one example of how cooperation between species produced better results than the hegemony's policy of conquest and exploitation. Alliance worlds shared knowledge freely, creating innovations that improved life for billions of beings. Captain Tony Garcia, now Admiral in charge of border security, patrolled the edge of Alliance space aboard the battleship Vigilance. His mission was to watch for new threats and ensure that aggressive species understood the consequences of attacking Alliance members. "Admiral, we have detected an unknown fleet approaching from outside the galaxy," reported his tactical officer. 75 ships of unknown design. Tony studied the sensor readings with professional interest. The approaching vessels were large and heavily armed. Their technology seemed advanced, though not as sophisticated as the hybrid systems now used by Alliance forces. "Open communication channels. Let them know they are entering Alliance space." The response came in a language that ship computers had never encountered. After several minutes of translation work, the meaning became clear. The newcomers called themselves the Dominion of Eternal Glory. They demanded immediate surrender of all Alliance worlds. Tony's response was immediate and uncompromising. Unknown fleet, you are hereby warned that this galaxy is under the protection of the Galactic Liberation Alliance. Any hostile action will result in your complete destruction. The aliens seemed amused by this threat. Their leader, calling himself Supreme Master Kolvek, broadcast a response that showed images of conquered worlds and enslaved populations. The Dominion had apparently conquered several galaxies using tactics similar to those once employed by the hegemony. Primitive local species, you will submit to Dominion rule or face extermination. We have destroyed 1,000 civilizations. You cannot resist our power. Tony's reply would become legendary throughout Alliance space. Supreme Master Kolvek, you have made a fatal error. This galaxy belongs to humanity and our allies. We have already destroyed one galactic empire that threatened genocide. We will be happy to add yours to the list. Within hours, Admiral Rodriguez was leading a task force of 300 Alliance ships toward the edge of the galaxy. The fleet included vessels from over 50 different species, all united in their determination to protect their freedom. But the humans remained the backbone of Alliance military power. Their ships were the fastest, their weapons the most advanced, their crews the most experienced at fighting genocidal empires. When other species needed protection from extinction, they called on humanity to provide it. Captain Susan Reed, now commanding the heavy cruiser Liberator, led the advance squadron as they approached the Dominion fleet. Her ship's sensors analyzed the alien vessels and found them to be powerful but outdated compared to Alliance technology. Admiral Rodriguez, the enemy ships are using energy shields and plasma weapons similar to old hegemony designs, she reported. Their technology appears to be several generations behind our current capabilities. Helen smiled grimly as she absorbed this information. The Dominion had made the same mistake as the hegemony. They had conquered weak civilizations for so long that they had never faced a real challenge. Now they were about to encounter an enemy that had been forged in the fires of total war. All ships implement the final solution protocol, Helen ordered, using the same term the hegemony had applied to their genocide programs. Show these aliens what happens to species that threaten our families. The Battle of the Galactic Edge lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Dominion of Eternal Glory had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Not a single alien ship escaped. To carry word back to their home galaxy, Supreme Master Kolvek died believing that his conquest of the galaxy was assured. His last transmission spoke of vast Dominion fleets that would arrive to avenge his defeat. But Admiral Rodriguez was already making plans to deal with that threat. Tony, prepare long-range reconnaissance missions to the Dominion home galaxy. We need to know what we are facing. As Alliance scout ships began their journey to distant galaxies, the former hegemony capital of Hegemon Prime was being transformed into something unprecedented. The world that had once commanded the extermination of 47 species was now home to the Galactic Memorial. Each murdered civilization was remembered with a monument that told their story and honored their memory. Visitors from throughout the galaxy came to learn about the price of unchecked aggression and the importance of protecting the weak from the strong. Admiral Carlos Rivera, now retired but serving as memorial director, often walked among the monuments. In the evening, each one represented millions of lives lost to genocide. But they also represented humanity's promise that such crimes would never again go unpunished. Admiral, we have received a message from the Andromeda Galaxy, his aide reported. A civilization there is requesting Alliance assistance against something called the Eternal Empire. Carlos looked up at the stars and smiled. Humanity had come, far from the days when alien invasion seemed like extinction. Now they were the guardians of galactic peace, ready to carry their protection to other galaxies if necessary. The title of the old human warning had proven prophetic. Those who entered human space uninvited had indeed found it to be a one-way journey. But now that warning extended throughout the galaxy and beyond. Any species that threatened genocide or forced slavery would face the combined might of the Liberation Alliance. And at the heart of that alliance stood humanity, no longer the prey, but the protectors of all who cherished freedom. The age of galactic empires built on conquest and murder was ending. In its place rose something better. A civilization based on cooperation, protection of the weak, and the absolute certainty that those who threatened innocent lives would pay the ultimate price for their crimes.